Get time for people to get on the We Are Worship. Hey, everybody. Welcome
so professional.
to We Are Worship Wednesday. My name is Morgan, and today I am joined by two of my favorite people in the world.
Really?
I don't really know how I got from like being crazy to proper to almost British in the matter of 30 seconds.
I couldn't tell. Your accent just stayed the same throughout the whole thing to me. So
you couldn't understand the word.
No, speech impediment.
So welcome to We Are Worship Wednesday. If you're not familiar with We Are Worship, we are a resource for worship leaders all over the globe. You can go to weareworship.com.
This is actually live. We can't start this over.
I know that. I'm not trying to start it over.
Oh, okay. Because last time we did this, we had to start over like 6 times. Like this one's live.
No.
Okay.
Look. Do I look embarrassed or upset?
No. Nope.
Okay. I'm just trying to tell folks about
We're losing like the one viewer that was watching us.
Great.
Okay, so we have a couple of free songs for you this week. And that's the great thing about We Are Worship. You can go on and you can download free stuff because who likes free stuff? You like free stuff.
I do.
I like free stuff. You like free stuff. And I'm sure you like free stuff too. So you should go to weareworship.com and you should download our free song of the week, which is King, a Friend of Mine by ICF Worship. And that album hasn't released yet. So you get a new free song that hasn't come out yet, which is cool, kind of like last week. Throwing some curveballs in there, new releases. And then our free hymn of the month is God Most High, all about worship, featuring Michael Farron. So check them out. Go to We Are Worship.
Awesome. And today we're joined by Dustin Smith. And Dustin's a worship leader, songwriter with Integrity Music. And we actually have known each other for, 7 years or so?
Long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
We first met over lunch, and we pretty much always meet over lunch.
That's pretty much what we do.
So y'all are going to have a lot of inside jokes. So I'm going to be sitting here in the middle of y'all. Like,
that's why we put you in the middle.
That's kind of the joke. I'm going to stop being mean. I'm just kidding. I told you I wouldn't do this.
So Dustin travels and speaks and leads worship, all kinds of churches and religions, right?
Religions,
you do
maybe.
He's got a lot of great things to share, and every time he says something, really, we get challenged by it. So today we're going to be talking about function over title, why having a title of a worship leader really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Just like my job title doesn't mean that I do what I do. I do way more than my job title says.
Are you hoping your boss is watching?
Yeah.
Right now or something?
Are you trying to convince us? So really, we brought you here for a counseling session.
That's great. I'm okay with it.
So you recently moved to Nashville.
Yes, we did.
Pretty much like a little bit after I moved here.
Yeah.
Because you missed me so much because we were both in Kansas City.
I could not believe you left, and I was like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what has that been like for you?
It's been pretty awesome. Drink a lot more sweet tea now, and no, it's been fun. We've been on the road for a while, and so a lot of where we travel is a lot of East Coast kind of stuff. So North Carolina and Virginia, and so it was a lot easier to be able to do that. And then I do a lot of writing, obviously, here in Nashville. So my team and I moved out here. They moved out probably around September, and then I moved out in December, and got a house out here, and absolutely love it.
Cool. So you've been leading worship for a while. You were at a church in Kansas City for a long time.
Yeah.
So what are some things that related to the topic of function, versus title, that maybe you want to kind of start this off as an introduction?
Yeah. I think for me, I think we've been talking about this, I think, for a long time, because in the church, especially as music has taken on a bigger role and more prominent role, you find like churches are almost forced into finding great musicians. And we kind of lose what a worship leader, I believe, really is. And a lot of people, you hear those arguments of like, even the articles, like worship leader is not mentioned in the Bible. It's not a position in the Bible. But it actually is. It's called a pastor, and the tools may be different. You may you may use different tools. So our tools is music. The other one might be the spoken word. But I feel like worship leaders are supposed to be pastoral, and so that makes them more shepherds. And I feel like a lot of pastors have kind of been forced into hiring kids with guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard sometimes because, you know, it's not that they're not good at what they do. They're great musicians and stuff like that, but that might be fine in a setting of just doing a concert or just going out and doing it. And that's great. You still win people to Jesus that way. But when you stand up in front of a same congregation every single week, now this becomes your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And we're in a society that's very much, well, you know, I watched the Golden State Warriors the other night with Steph Curry, you know, and I hear guys like, man, we won. And I was like, I didn't see you on the court. And, you know, but they have a, you know, a Steph Curry jersey on, and they were at the game. And because you still feel like this is our thing, and that's not a problem, but we almost get this mentality that because I'm called something, I am that, instead of learning how to function. So when I was a worship leader, I actually would watch out in the congregation, and I would choose worship teams a lot of times based on who I saw worship in the congregation, not who I knew could play an instrument or sing. Wow. So I might go up to a girl that I watched worship or a guy who I watched worship and say, hey, do you sing much? And someone would be like, no, not really. And I was like, well, you're a great worshiper. Would you want to be on the worship team?
Play the triangle or egg shaker or something?
I actually would tell them, like, they're like, you're crazy because I can't sing. You don't want to hear me sing. And I would tell them, like, can I turn your mic off? Because I don't need people to perform and be the best singers. I have great singers that are worshipers too. So does that mean you can't be a good worshiper and a good singer? No, but I need something to project from the stage who we're supposed to be and give people a model to follow. And so I look for people who are functioning as worshipers before I would ever call them a worship leader. And so I think a lot of people get a title of worship leader, but they don't function in it. And to me, as a pastor, as a shepherd, your number one concern is not about music. Your number one concern is people. So songs for me are just tools and weapons. And I've said that many times. Like, I think of songs as rods and staffs. And I think of them as tools to help build up people. I think of them as weapons to defend people. And so when I'm in a service, I'm choosing songs that are going to be based on what is going to help these people today, what's going to silence the enemy that might be whispering into their ear, what might give them strength today. And I've always said, like, even master builders don't sleep with tools. So I feel like a lot of guys are so in love with the tool of music that they spend their entire week focusing on maybe a 20-minute section of their service and their music, and they never consider the people that they're leading. Or they're standing on a stage and their eyes are closed the entire time, and they'll tell me, like, I don't want to open my eyes because it distracts me in worship. And I was like, what distracts you? And they're always like, the people distract me because they're not worshiping. And I was like, so now the people are the distraction to your individual level of worship. And instead of thinking as a corporate group, like, I'm looking for people who function in this. And that's it actually then, to me, it's kind of started there, and now it goes out beyond. So now it's even outside of the church. So even here in Nashville or anywhere else, we forget we're supposed to live by a different kingdom standard. And so guys are put in jobs because they have a title of a job. They might, or maybe even a title from college, or they might have gotten a degree in something, but they've never functioned in it. Their heart isn't crying out this, and they're not even in tune for what God's doing to help people. They have not learned to function in the area of worship and become a worshiper, but they want to lead whole groups of worship. And I see guys all the time commenting on Facebook and stuff, and you're thinking, like, a worshiper would never treat people like that. They would never, a true worshiper of God. And that's where Jesus walks into the disciples or the Pharisees, and he said, you know, my biggest complaint against you is that you call yourselves shepherds, but you're just hirelings. And hirelings are guys who do stuff for money, not for people. And Ezekiel does the same thing. He says, woe to you shepherds. He says, you eat the food that was made for the flock, but you also eat the sheep you were supposed to be taking care of. And so it's a hard, it's kind of harsh a little bit maybe, but it's a hard word, because I see a lot of people that do it for money. And that's where you find they start having conflicts with pastors and people who are like, I want to be on a worship team. And I'm like, I've watched you in church and you don't worship. And so worship from down there, and then I'll bring you up here that you might be the example for new people coming in. Because I always tell our team, like, you're either the example or the excuse. You're the example of why we should do this, or you're the excuse of why I won't, you know? And so when new people come in, they get to see a demonstration of people that are doing it because they function in it, you know? And so even when I came to Nashville, we moved to Nashville. Like, I didn't move to Nashville to try to become something. I'm already functioning in it. This is what I do. Like, if I don't have the title of worship leader, I'm already a worship leader. And because what I'm going to do is always direction people to see the things of God in something that will give him worth, you know? And so everything in my life, if it's music or if it's work outside of it, I'm going to do everything I can to show him worth. And that means I function as a worshiper. Now I may be able to be in front of people, to be a leader of people now, because I've learned to function in it.
Whew. All right, that's it, everybody. We're done.
No, I like the part where you mentioned being the example.
Yeah.
Because I think so many times worship leaders will get on stage and they'll be so focused about the song. And so I'm standing out in the congregation wanting to worship, but I don't feel like I've been given the opportunity to worship because they're so focused on the song and performing the song or trying to lead the song, however they want to phrase it. Yeah. But I'm sitting here like, am I allowed to worship? Nobody has their arms raised. Like, nobody's crying, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so it puts me as someone who wants to connect in an awkward spot because I'm like, do I have that? Can I do that? Yeah. And I don't know. I like the fact that you just put that girl on stage because now that I see her, and it doesn't matter if her mic's on or off or whatever, I see her worshiping. And so that means, okay, I can do that too. I can lift my hands too. And I don't know.
I love what you're saying because I love what you're saying because you're saying it from a position of the congregation, because we hear it all the time from people on the stage of what we should or shouldn't do. But what is a congregation member are you wanting? And I realized this, like I was watching a fashion thing a couple years ago and I was like, people will never wear that, you know? And then about 6 months later, I saw people wearing it and I was like, oh my goodness, people are wearing it. I was like, I would never wear that. And then about 6 months after that, I realized I'm wearing it. And I was like, why am I wearing this? You know? And yeah, exactly. But you know what it was? It's called permission marketing. It's called permission marketing. We gave you permission because we said this is what's cool, or we said this is what's going to be. Yeah. And so somebody trusted that source and said, this is what's going to be next. And they did it. And I think there's a level of permission worshiping, and people who complain like, oh, don't judge me, I'm worshiping Jesus in my heart. Well, that's nowhere in the Bible. Bible never says worship him in your heart. It says from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Why? Because in Isaiah, it says, you know, that part where it says Jesus comes, and in the New Testament, he quotes Isaiah and he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to set the captives free. And in Isaiah, at the end of that, and it says, and they, the ones who are set free, they will be called oaks of righteousness for the display of his splendor. And you realize, like, I didn't come in here just to do a one-on-one time with God. If I was going to do that, I'd just stay home and turn on a CD. I came in to worship with you guys. That's why I open my eyes, because I get strength from knowing wisdom's going through some hard times right now, and look at him worship. And I'm going, man, if he can do it, I can do it. I had a guy tell me one time, he's like, you have been such a model of worship for me, because I was standing in service exhausted one day and I looked up and you were going full out. And he said, you've been doing it for years and I've never seen you not that way. And he said, I realized, like, Dustin doesn't get a day off. And he said, I've given myself permission to have a day off because I didn't think it really mattered. But then he said, I'm looking around and I realized the people around me are watching me and they know me. And I gave myself permission to have a day off, which means now they have permission to have a day off of worship. And he said, and you come in every time, and it doesn't matter if you're exhausted, it doesn't matter if you have a hard day, you're going to go for God. It may look a little bit different, but you're going to use all your strength. And I realized, like, at some point, those who function in it just walk in wanting to give him their best. And in Malachi, it says, there are people all over the world who honor me by giving me their best. And I realize we've given our best we'll give it to sports, we'll give volume, we'll give energy, we'll give time. We'll put our kids in sports, we'll do all that. We'll let our kids play video games, we'll let them do all that stuff. That's fine. That's great. But then you come to church and you've got no energy left because you gave your best to everything else. And people who function as worshipers always want to make sure they have their best reserved for him. And, I dress down more at church now. It's the culture. It's what we do. But people used to come in and dress up and we would say, oh, that's stiff, or that's legalistic or religious. But you know what? When it was established, at least a lot of them, they just wanted to wear their best. Because this means something to me. I don't mind us wearing jeans. I don't mind us wearing t-shirts. Some of the V-neck can go away. It's a little embarrassing for some of you guys, but maybe not to you, but from you. But you know what it is that if you can do that and you'll still go after him with everything you have, and you look out in people's eyes and you realize like they need you today. They need you to be strong. You've sat in your office, a lot of you, all week long, and this is all you've done. You should have strength for them. And that's the problem, is that we're not functioning at a level of shepherds who are willing to go out and like David. So David is anointed as a king. David did not function in the courts. He did not get to go to king school. He did not get to pick up a sword and learn from the best, he actually trained as a king in the fields. Because when he goes to fight Goliath, Saul says, what qualifies you? What qualifies you? That's a function. And David said, well, I killed a lion and bear with my bare hands. Like, oh, dang. That qualifies you to fight that guy, because a lion and a bear is similar to that, but it's not that. And even then, Saul says, well, let me put my armor on you. And at that point, you realize like that doesn't fit. But if Saul's armor was so great, why didn't he use it? Because he wasn't functioning as a king. So God wasn't just taking his title from him. He was actually revealing, you're not acting like a king. Because some people would say, well, God removed Saul from being a king. No, Saul removed himself because he didn't function as a king. Yeah. He did not take on Goliath when he should have. Why did David get the title of a king? Because David heard the dishonor happening from Goliath, and David stood up and said, I'm going to kill you for that. And he said, you are not going to dishonor my God in that way, or his army. And he goes out and kills him. So David became a king by the function of a battle, not because somebody said, oh, you're going to be king, king, king. And he sits on a throne like, oh, I'm king. He became king because after that battle, it says he's on the road and all of them, they're crying out. They go, Saul has killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. And you realize the inauguration of a king came because of a function, not because of a title.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, I think a lot of times today, there's a lot of worship leaders whose title is worship leader or worship pastor, but they don't function as a worship pastor. They function more as a song leader.
Yeah.
Where they are vocally and instrumentally leading a song, but they're not really leading them in worship as a worshiper. Yeah. And I've even heard the argument from worship leaders saying, we don't need to see, outer expressions from the congregation to measure their engagement in worship.
Yeah. Which I think that's a hard one to really sell biblically, because, from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, but it also says, and from your bellies will flow rivers of living water. And I think a lot of people are standing in service with no expression, no emotion for God, but they have it for everything else. If they don't have it for anything else, that's acceptable. But you can't stay in a room and tell me how much he means to you, and the whole time you have no expression, no life. If you did that to a wife, or you did that to a friend, they will not be around you very long, because they would say, like, you don't care about me. You're like, yes, I do. Like, but you never show it. That's the thing, is like, people are walking into our churches. We've made excuses to make us comfortable. And if we're honest with ourselves, most people have chosen the church they go to based on their personality, not even their theology. Most of them don't even know what they believe, because they only came to that church and stayed there because they were comfortable. And so now when you start making somebody uncomfortable and stretching them a little bit, why do we raise our hands? Well, the Bible says, let all men lift holy hands in the sanctuary. It doesn't really sound like a suggestion to me. It sounds more like a command. And it's, shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. that's not just a song. Like if you're going to treat that, everybody knows the song Shout to the Lord. It's old, but great song. But a lot of churches will sing Shout to the Lord, but they'll never shout. And then if they find a church that shouts, they'll go, that's weird. You shouldn't have to do that. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have to, but you should want to. I had a guy one time, like I mentioned, clap your hands in church, and the Bible talks about clapping your hands. And he came up and he goes, do you know how many times it mentions that in the Bible? And I know what he's doing. He's trying to get out of doing it because it only says it once, And so I said, oh yeah, I said, I know. I said, it only says it once, but I think God probably talking to the angel like, hey, when he writes this, I want you to go down and tell him, put this in. And the angel says, how many times should you put it in the word? And say, oh man, just put that in once. If they don't get that, they're idiots. And the guy was like, I don't think that's really right. And I was like, yeah, it's probably not good theology. But like, why are we always looking for how little we can do so it's acceptable and not how much we can do for a God who is so big and so good and so right? And this really is it's not an indictment necessarily. If you feel like it's an indictment, then you should really check your own heart. Because when Jesus did it to the Pharisees, the ones who got mad were the ones who were guilty. And they picked up stones wanting to kill him because of their guilt. And to me, the ones who sit back and go, man, this might be right. Well, now we just have to assess our own hearts. And David said, search my heart, O God, and let me know if there's any wicked way in me. That should really be our first response. When I hear a convicting word, I look at it like, search my heart. Let me know. Is there anything in me that needs to change? And if David prayed that prayer, I should probably pray that prayer. I probably shouldn't go, nah, no wicked way in me. Most of us are doing the level of worship, expression-wise, that we were told is acceptable. And we're only doing it. And when Jesus talks to the Pharisees, I know I'm quoting a lot of Bible, but
why? I don't know why.
Some of you should probably, you might read
we don't do that.
But yeah.
It's not about that.
But Jesus tells the Pharisees, he said, Isaiah was right of you when he said, you're a people who praise me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. Your worship of me is in vain because it's just rules taught by men. For you have held on to the traditions of man, but you've let go of the commands of God. And I think sometimes we need to assess, like, am I doing this just because it's tradition? Most of us are worshiping at the level we're at because that's what we were given permission to live at. And then God starts expanding, and some that are listening now know they used to be one way, and now their expression has grown. But this isn't about the expression. If you're, can you have hands in the air and be making noise and it not be with the heart? Yeah, absolutely. But I very rarely find people who have heart and have no expression. Very, very rarely. They've either been told it's not right and they've accepted it because it was easier than it was fighting it, or that's what they enjoy. And then some of you have that constant battle of like, I want to do more, but I'm embarrassed of what's happened. I don't even have a leader that does it. And to me, it's like, well, maybe you need to find a place that does, because there are places on the earth that want to give them their best. And this isn't about just being charismatic and being loud. It's about functioning in something that we're telling everybody you should be. And it's we might be a display of his glory. And so I want to stand up there and be a display. It might be with my hands in the air. Why do you have your hands in the air? This is something he likes. But I've found very, very few times when a corporate body moves in it that a visitor doesn't come in and just go, this is amazing. Hands are in the air. But because you can tell, like, I'm not looking for uniformity, I'm looking for unity. And they can tell when you're in unity or not. And then a lot of visitors go in and go, yeah, it's no different than anything else I do. They don't show it respect, or they don't show it honor. And you can feel it in the room. There's no honor given. So if a president walks in, we'll all stand up, and, in school, they won't let you drink. Your kid can't walk in with a pop and then get up and go to the bathroom whenever they want. But now church is like, come in with a coffee and then get up whenever you're comfortable and you want to go potty, and you're thinking like, I don't know. It just feels like, it's not legalism. It's just like, my kids sat through Captain America for 3 straight hours, drink a 60, my 5-year-old, a 64 ounce, thing of, I'm sure it was like a health drink or something, but
Mountain Dew.
Yeah. And he had to, he had to go to the bathroom 2 hours into it. And he's sitting there like, I'm not going because I don't want to miss it. And in church, it's like, hey, if you need to get up 3 times in 15 minutes, just go. And you're thinking like, yeah, but if it's important to you, you want to be a part of it. And some people who go, yeah, church is boring though. Yeah, because our expectation, our attitude is this isn't worth much.
Mm-hmm.
And if I function at that level, then I don't care what title you carry. I know what title you carry in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I know what authority you carry in the spirit. And if you like it or not, spirits know us by our titles of our activity. And it is our actions. And so while you say, well, I don't have to have an expression for God to know my heart. No, you don't. But my expression reveals to other people my heart. And my expression reveals to God's enemy my heart. Because he can't read your mind and he doesn't know your heart. He knows you by your actions and your activity. So.
Well, if you guys are watching us live, don't forget there's a live chat room. You can submit questions for Dustin, or hate mail is acceptable too. Dustin gets a lot of those. So
they might just disappear, just because Jesus just eventually walked away and they were still holding stones.
So what's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure this is possible. So say you need to put this into practical terms. Somebody comes to you and says, I think I've noticed this about myself.
Yeah.
Like how do I need to change? Like, what do I need to do to make this more of a function rather than a title?
Yeah. I think the first thing is become a worshiper. One of the first things God did with me is he put me in an area where I was uncomfortable. Like I didn't play the piano and I was sitting and play it. I led vocally my whole life, Well, I became comfortable with it and it was easy and it was like my worship is singing. I can sing, And then I had to get on the piano. I was very uncomfortable and I would stay up all night doing it. And so one night I'm playing and I'm getting upset because my fingers are still feeling like they don't work, they do not function right. And I was so upset. I was like, whoa. I was like, why do you want me to play the piano so bad? And I felt the Lord, it was like 3 a.m. I felt the Lord say, I'm not trying to teach you how to play the piano. I'm trying to teach you how to worship. I realized one of the ways he taught me how to worship was actually from a position of not being so strong. I didn't have to be so perfect. And so even when we would go in with my team, the number one thing as a probably that I would do and function at a normal level to try to get this at a functional level is I would make sure I start taking care of the team that I lead before I start trying to prove it to my congregation. So when I would go in for band practices, I'm not just trying to learn songs. I'm actually concerned about their life. And if we're having a rough practice, I'm going to pull this together. And I'm going to ask, even in myself as we're practicing, there were times where I was like halfway through, like, this isn't worth it. So I'd shut it down like, hey, I know it feels like it's kind of a hard night. Let's go hang out at the coffee shop and talk for 30 minutes or something. But I started showing them concern and I started letting them know, like, I don't need you in my band just to facilitate a spot for me. I don't need you just to play guitar. I want to take care of you as a person. And so I would start showing them concern. One of the ways you reveal to me that you reveal how much you love God is that you let God work through you for people. People are always saying like, man, I just wish somebody had, could encourage me. And so I was like, man, I'm going to pray for you for that. Well, why pray for them? You might need to be the encourager. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes and says, would you pray, my kids aren't eating and I lost my job. And you're like, yeah, I'll pray for you. We'll make sure to pray for you. Well, why don't you say, you know what? I'm not going to let you not eat. I'm going to give you some money. And you're like, well, I can't really afford it. No, if we care for each other, we can't afford not to. We just can't do it anymore. And so it's funny because a lot of people want to say how do I flesh this out now functioning as a worshiper? And then they want to go back to the music. How do I get better at doing my music? How do I get better at doing my music and focusing on people? And my thing is start to focus on people. And then let your music, like my band, I would tell them, like there's sometimes we'd fight through it and we practice. But then when we get in a service, I would tell my guys, today, as a drummer, as a guitar player, nobody close their eyes today. I said, I know this is hard, but I want you to pick out a person in this church service that needs your encouragement, and I want you to sing over them from wherever you're at. So every guy, I want you singing, and I want those words, and I want you to smile at a person and connect with them. And at first it's weird because when that person catches your eye, they're like what are you looking at? And you're like, I'm looking at you. No, but like, it's not about not closing your eyes either. Like some people could go legalistic, like, oh, it's weird. He doesn't ever want people to close their eyes. No, that's weird for you to be like,
Yeah, tape your eyes.
Like,
Let's open.
I can't blink. And it's hard because we're either or people. We're never both and. That's the hard thing. Is like, and I'm swinging really hard one way just because I want people to get it. I want you to feel it. And but honestly, like if you'll start taking care of people, God will show up on the other side of the music side, and He'll empower you, and you'll be better than you look. You'll be better than you sound. Mm-hmm. It'll come across better. And people will go, man, it seems like something changed. It cracks me up because people will be like, man, the old people in our church hate our music. And I'm like, have you ever gone to one of them like before a service and given them a hug and been like, hey, how has your week been? I'm like, no. Like they hate us. No, you know what they hate? They hate that you stand on a stage and you've been here 5 years and you act like you don't know them. Mm. And now we're in a war with each other. At a church of 50 people, we don't even look each other in the eye. And then 50 people, the band goes to a green room after service. Like, why do you even have a green room? You don't even need a room. This is hard, but I walked into a church and I was out, actually, it wasn't my church. And I was out hugging on people I didn't even know before a service. And you know who I'm hugging on a lot of times? The ones who I know that are least like me. Mm. Because I want them to know I have real concern for you. I didn't come today to do my music. I didn't come today to impress you. I came today to connect with you. And today I'm hoping that something encourages you. And so I would go around, and I even told my band recently, like we used to pray before services, like right before we walk out. And I told them, like, why don't you pray for a service before you get here? Like through the week, maybe, and ask God, give me a picture of somebody in this congregation that's going to need my encouragement. And now before we walk out on that stage, I want you out in the congregation, hugging people in the congregation, people you don't know. You don't have to get in long conversations, 2 minutes. Just like give them a hug and say, how was your week? Did you have a good week? And I know people can dump on you. You have to protect, you want to protect that. You want to protect yourself. And I know that can be hard. And so you might have to have two of you go together. So one person can say, hey, we need to go say hi to this person. Don't forget. And it can kind of pull you away a little bit. But when you walk out of your congregation before a service, instead of standing in the back praying and then walking on stage and closing your eyes and never looking at anybody, people are going to know you have concern for me. When you walk up to the single mom with 3 little kids and say, thank you for getting up early today and getting all 3 of your kids ready, I hope the songs today are powerful for you. We're looking forward. I'm looking forward to watching your kids worship today with us. And they know you have concern. Mm-hmm. And so you want to flesh it out, start doing it, start taking care of people. And then the music will get better. You still practice. I asked myself the other day, I read that prayer. David said, train my hands for war, my fingers for battle. And I asked myself, I was like, because at the bottom of that chapter, it says that he played it on his harp. And I thought, train my hands for war, my fingers for battle. I wonder if he was talking about his harp or his sword. Because I don't think you realize how much battle you actually do with a guitar. Yeah. David used to play, and the Bible says that demons would leave Saul. I know we don't even like thinking about that in church. You don't want to think about demons and stuff, but what happens when you play is a lot of times when they know that you have concern is that those spirits recognize it too, and it gives you an authority over them. That's why I want to function in it. I want to function as an authority because I don't want just those people to get the song today. I want those enemies that have been whispering depression in their ear, fear in their ear, doubt in their ear. I want those enemies to hear my words today. And I want them to know that we are the authority in the room, not those spirits. And so a lot of times when somebody walks out, like, I feel so much hope today. It's not even necessarily that you poured hope in. It's that you removed the blockages that kept hope from coming in, because hope is there. Jesus is speaking. They're not, they're believers, but somehow some enemies have come in and put earplugs in their ear. And today we're going to do songs that try to pop those earplugs out, and defend them.
Yeah. So. Well, last week we had Benji Cowart here. And
I like that guy.
Yeah, apparently you guys wrote a song together.
Yeah.
Called My Pursuit. So we had him share the story behind My Pursuit from the All About Worship album. And you wrote a couple of other songs on the album. You could pick one or the other. Whatever story you remember. If you want to share about, is it Royal Blood?
Yeah, Royal
I Can't
Blood.
Contain It.
Yeah.
Either one of those.
Yeah, both of them I think they kind of flow in the same way. They're way different songs if you listen to them, but they kind of both carry the authority thing. Royal Blood is really about, what Christ already did for us. And it was a really different way to say it because it says, you would think it would say, we will never be less than all you've promised, but it doesn't. It says, we have never been. And you would say, well, you have been less than what he promised. And no, the potential has always been there to be everything he promised. You're just not walking in it, So that's where I love, and Michael's the one who kind of pushed for that. And I pushed back a little bit first, like, I don't know, because have we been? And he's like, yeah, but is the opportunity there to be? And it's really talking about the potential of what God really wants for us. But I can't contain it. For me, is one of my favorites. Well, it's hard to say that. There's so many moments, but it was one of my favorite moments sitting down with Ryan, Shirley, and when we started singing that, it was really easy. It just came out. But the words, I can't contain it, is different, because there's something that starts to happen. And like I said before, it's the rivers of living water. He says, from your bellies will flow rivers of living water. I think a lot of people are waiting for God to come to them. But what if God wants to come through you? And you've been trained to keep your mouth closed. Now that river wants to come out, and now God wants to flood this place by you singing, by you letting the presence of God flow and the Spirit of God flow. You're waiting for him to come down, and he's waiting for you to release. And so I realized in that moment, like, I can't contain it, all that you've done for me. And in those songs, we're trying to give people the opportunity to now let this happen to you. And the words too, there is no sickness that you have not already healed. I love the other one too. There is no lion that's greater than you or more fierce. It's just the description of what he's done, who he is, and the bigness of who he is. And if he's really that big, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, then there's no way I can contain it. So I just want to let it out. Awesome. My mother-in-law's favorite song is I Can't Contain It. Oh, nice. That's awesome. She told me. She's very smart. Well, thanks for joining us today. Unfortunately, our time is up. Oh, there was a time. My bad. I don't want to talk about how long I've gone. I didn't wear a watch on purpose. So you guys can connect with Dustin by going to dustinsmith.com. He also has a special project called healingisright.com that you can check out. It's a free album, basically themed around healing, and an app. Yeah, a free app. So check those out. And you can also connect with us on weareworship.com and We Are Worship USA on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter. YouTube is We Are Worship Music. And next week we're doing another round table, and next week we're gonna talk about worship team auditions, which I've never experienced auditioning for a worship team, so I think that's gonna be really cool. I'll probably have some questions to ask, so that'll be good. Yeah, there's gonna be 4 seasoned worship leaders. That's awesome. Joining Morgan. I won't be here because I'll be out of town. Auditioning for a worship team. So I feel like I'm gonna be the one auditioning for whatever we're doing, because we've got 4 people here, But it's gonna be fun. If you check out weareworshipwednesday.com, you can just follow the link to watch it from there, and yeah, it should be really good. Cool. So awesome. Thanks for joining us. My pleasure. Thanks for letting me. Yeah. And not being too harsh on me. Yeah. Thanks for sitting this close and not making it awkward. You're welcome. Now it's awkward. Okay, I just made it awkward. All right, we'll see you guys later.